Hello, friends and countrymen. This is Sean from Cascade Conservative. Thank you for tuning into the podcast. This is the inaugural broadcast, so I will probably mess up quite a bit and probably sound very, very awkward. But I plan on doing this at least twice a week, so I hope that you guys continue to tune in. We're going to kind of start off by just going through some of the stories of the day, and then maybe later on in the show kind of go into a little more, off-the-cuff topics. But today, it was slow earlier today, but now it's kind of picking up in terms of news. So, first thing, I am on X like crazy. I'm trying to go ahead and build a following on X. So first off, if you go ahead and follow me on X with the link in the podcast description, I would appreciate it. But honestly, when you talk about breaking news, when you talk about also being able to get tons of perspective on other people's point of view on the news, X is really the way to go. It's the way that all the breaking news just comes across the table without having to tune in to some kind of biased, opinionated news source like CNN, MSNBC, even Fox News, if you're not even really looking into their realm of the news sphere. So, first off, these drones that have been sighted in New Jersey. They've been sighted over military bases and sensitive areas, especially when it has to deal with Donald Trump. No one knows what's going on, and no one has known what's going on for a really long time. There was some kind of speculation that there was some kind of mothership off of the East Coast, launching these things and doing some sort of reconnaissance. Now, we all remember the infamous weather balloon incidents that the Biden administration basically dropped the ball on. They let these weather balloons from China, basically, it just follows the jet stream, going over sensitive areas, taking pictures, taking photos. And the Biden administration didn't really kind of feel the need to do anything about it until after it had gone over the entire continental United States and shot it off of the East Coast. So, when it comes to unmanned aircraft, they don't really seem to have much of a worry, much of a priority. But at the same time, these things are taking pictures of our most secretive places or most secure places. Who knows what kind of equipment they have on board in terms of listening for electronic communications. It's rather scary and also infuriating that we even allow this to happen in our country. So, there has been a growing concern, especially of the residents of New Jersey, what these things are. Are they armed with explosives? Are they armed with chemical weapons? Are they there just to observe? And as of 1:17 p.m. on December 12th, and that's Pacific time. I am in Oregon. The Department of Homeland Security and the FBI released a joint statement, and I'd like to read probably most of that to you and kind of give my take on it. So this is from the joint DHS-FBI statement on reports of drones in New Jersey. We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. The FBI, DHS, and other federal partners, in close coordination with the New Jersey State Police, continue to deploy personnel and technology to investigate this situation and confirm whether the reported drone flights are actually drones or instead manned aircraft or otherwise inaccurate sightings. Well, I'd like to kind of pause there for a second and talk about that last sentence where he says manned aircraft. So, any manned aircraft basically needs to go through the FDA in terms of flight logs, everything. You would be able to look up what's flying around the skies of New Jersey and basically figure that out pretty quickly if it's manned aircraft. We go on. Historically, we have experienced cases of mistaken identity where reported drones are, in fact, manned aircraft or other facilities. We are supporting local law enforcement in New Jersey with numerous detection methods, but have not corroborated any of the reported visual sightings with electronic detection. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft operating lawfully. There are no reported confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. So basically what they're telling you is to think what they say, not what you see. If there has been no posed threat, if there have been numerous reports of these drones flying over sensitive areas, flying over places that have to do with Donald Trump, why can't we just come out and say, we are investigating, this is what we know, this is what we can tell you, instead of acting dumb? The government right now just thinks that we're just a bunch of hee-haws that will believe anything that they say. If they're manned aircraft, you need to come out with flight logs or flight patterns or whatever. Every single flight, doesn't matter what kind of aircraft it is, has a transponder, has a tail number, has a flight log, has a flight path, has a flight plan, all of those things. And they're basically just dismissing that, saying, oh, the American public wouldn't know that. Final paragraph. We take seriously the threat that can pose by unmanned aircraft systems, UASs, which is why law enforcement and other agencies continue to support New Jersey to investigate the reports. To be clear, we have uncovered no such malicious activity or intent at this stage. While there is no known malicious activity occurring in New Jersey, the reported sightings do, however, highlight the insufficiency of current authorities. The insufficiency of current authorities. This whole statement is insufficient. This whole statement is basically one big gaslighting letter saying, you people don't know what you're talking about. Just trust us. Nothing's going on. There's nothing to see here, which in this day and age makes people way more uncomfortable. So this was also reposted by Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas with his quote, "We have no evidence at this time reported drone sightings pose a national security or public safety threat or have a foreign nexus." Obviously reiterating part of the statement that I just read to you, which is total baloney. So, what are your theories on this? Lots of people think that they are some sort of foreign drone reconnaissance mission style drones. Kind of what it seems to be like here. I would highly doubt that it's some big group trying to, play a prank or see what they can get away with. Pilots of aircraft have seen these drones and said that they're the size of SUVs. Now, I can understand that we don't want to just shoot something down because we're worried about where it could land, especially in a populated area where this is. Especially with something the size of an SUV. But at the same time, all of these sightings are at night where it's hard to see in the sky. It just seems like we are not being told anything about what they know. And they just want to play it off like it's no big deal. Whether it's a big deal or not, if it's not a big deal, then they just need to come out, they just need to say what it is. They just need to tell us, hey, this is what it is. It's a military exercise. It's a military operation. It's a test. Whatever. It's like, okay, great. But the more that they sit here and just actively deny it is the more that you're going to get the conspiracy theories going, and the more you're not going to subside any of the panic that's going on in New Jersey. That's my take on it. So I guess we're going to move on right now. That did take a while. That took, a little over 10 minutes. So here's a really fun one for you guys. The Biden administration has now decided that they are going to sell off the surplus materials that they have for building the border wall. So if you haven't seen this, it's been a story up and down for the last several years where all the material purchased by the Trump administration to build the border wall is just kind of sitting in places. They're not building the wall, and so all the materials that he bought was just sitting there. And now, according to the Daily Wire, and I'm going to read you their caption here, and then there's also a video that I will go ahead and I will link in my in my description of this podcast so you can see, or I'll link you over to the X post. Weeks before Trump takes office, Biden is racing to auction off unused border wall materials. Videos show trucks hauling wall materials off of the border to a government auction site where massive amounts of the wall is waiting to be sold. So, this is an opportunity, I think, for the Trump administration to just kind of get back at Joe Biden for something that he thinks he's going to get over on Trump. What should happen? This is what I think should happen. I think that either Trump or Elon, I bet he could get Elon to do this, should show up to the auction and purchase all the materials at a discounted price, because we all know that auctions, well, you just kind of go there just to kind of get what you can out of something after, a bankruptcy or a closure. But go and purchase this material back and then sell it back to the government at a... What you do is you go to the auction, you purchase the materials at a cheap auctioned off price, go ahead and just try and see if there's a way to buy all the lots, and then sell it back to the government at a cheap price, or sell it back to the government at a premium price. That's really what you want to do. But I think both Elon and Donald Trump would probably agree that they want to make the cost less, rather than having to go out and buy all brand new materials for the wall, wait for it to be made, wait for it to be shipped, wait for it to get down to Texas or Arizona or wherever the border construction is happening at that time. So I'm telling you, that would be a great way to reverse this this kind of troll that Joe Biden and the Biden administration thinks that they're getting over on Donald Trump. It's kind of a joke that Joe Biden, he talks about having a great peaceful transfer of power, and it's really been anything but. He's been making things way more difficult for Donald Trump when he gets in the office, in terms of escalating the war in Ukraine by allowing the Ukrainians to use long-range missile systems to fire missiles into Russia, which the response from Russia was that we're going to lower our protocol to use nuclear weapons, and then they go ahead and they fire off an ICBM, which has never been used in war before. It wasn't armed with a nuclear weapon; it was armed with conventional warheads. But still, it went out and it found its target, and it's just kind of now he's kind of moved that situation back, along with a number of other things that we can get into on a later day. But it would just be one of those grin moments. And maybe they're thinking about doing this, or maybe they have to go out and they have to purchase all new materials. Who knows how government contracts work? I certainly don't. But the Biden administration is just, they're going to do everything they can just to make things more difficult. They're going to do everything they can to make things more difficult for Donald Trump. They're going to try and do everything they can to make things more difficult for all of the other administrators that are coming in terms of confirmations. We've heard over the past several days that Pete Hegseth is actually going to be able to get confirmed. Christopher Wray has resigned, and we're going to get into that next when we talk about some of the things coming out about the FBI today and the Inspector General report about January 6th, and whether there were FBI assets or agents on the ground during January 6th at the Capitol. In fact, why don't we just go ahead and let's get into that right now. So, in closing on this second story, Elon, Donald, buy the materials, sell them back to the government, or give them back to the government. I mean, who knows how much these things cost, but I'm pretty sure that Elon can afford it. Pretty sure Elon can afford anything. And yeah, let's keep the wall. Let's keep that wall. And yeah, let's keep on building that wall. Let's finish what we started 8 years ago. So moving on, this is more of a contentious subject on X because it's all about wording. And it's all about, well, who was actually there? And first off, the fact that it took this long to get the answers from the FBI and from the Justice Department and from the government just kind of shows you something. So, first off, let's rewind a couple weeks ago. Donald Trump nominates Kash Patel to replace Christopher Wray as the FBI director. Christopher Wray is in 7 years. He has the ability to go up to 10 years. It's not something where we set the term. It's basically you can serve 10 years. You can't serve more than that. Or you can be dismissed before the 10 years, depending on, who's in office, your performance, obviously everything else. It's not like a Senate seat where you sit there for 10 years or for 6 years and that's it. So I'm going to be looking for this story as I talk about it. But basically, the Inspector General's report on if there were FBI assets, FBI personnel, etc., down on the ground during the riot. And this is how both the left and the right are claiming victory on the findings of this report. So right now I'm looking at the X summary of basically all of the stories. Grok goes ahead and he puts it all together for you, and this is the blurb on it. And then I'll go ahead and I'll scroll down and give you the take on some of the other commentators on X. A Department of Justice Inspector General report has disclosed that the FBI had 26 confirmed human sources at the U.S. Capitol during the events of January 6, 2021. These informants include at least 4 individuals who entered the Capitol building and 13 who were in restricted areas around the Capitol. There are varying opinions regarding the implications of these presence, which some suggest it points to a setup or entrapment, while others view it as a typical law enforcement practices for gathering intelligence during significant events. So, now, notice confidential human sources. Doesn't say agents. So, everyone on the left is going out saying, hey, there were no 8 FBI agents on the grounds of the Capitol during the riots. Well, that's maybe true, but human sources. What were these human sources doing? Were they just observing? It says here that there were 6, or that there were several of them that entered the Capitol. So they're breaking the law, according to the left. They were in the Capitol during the riots. And anyone in the Capitol during the riots apparently is subject to maximum penalties, maximum imprisonment under the Biden administration and the Department of Justice. J.D. Vance, for those of you keeping score at home, this was labeled a dangerous conspiracy theory months ago. That's right. If you said that there were any FBI assets or any FBI agents on the ground during January 6 riots, you were a conspiracy theorist. You were a crazy. You were a loon. You were out there with Alex Jones, doing whatever Alex Jones does to come up with all of his stories. I'm going to go down here. So, that also coincides with the fact that Christopher Wray, who probably knew that this report was coming out, he'd probably seen it, he probably knew it was coming, along with the fact that it looks like Kash Patel is not going to have any problem getting confirmed through the Senate. Obviously, the Republicans have control. If they all vote for him, he's in. They don't have to worry about any Democrats or anything like that. So, let's see. The rats are fleeing the ship, says Jack Pascoe. Yes, they are. Jack Pascoe, senior editor, human events, Navy veteran, Intel officer, Catholic, New York Times best-selling author with 2.9 million followers. Let's see, what else are people saying about this? Charlie Kirk, breaking an Inspector General's report confirms the FBI has 26 confidential human sources on the ground on J6, and some of them went into the Capitol. Was this entrapment? Why did it take us 4 years to learn this? Criminal. That is the big question. Why did it take 4 years for us to learn this? And it's just another example of the FBI and the Justice Department kind of just keeping things on the outer edge until they have to basically put it through. They know that this information was going to be put out, so obviously Christopher Wray is going to resign, and now, who knows, maybe even Joe Biden will grant him a pardon, just like he's basically granting everyone else who's on the stink list of Donald Trump. And now, we don't want to go into any kind of political persecution like they were doing to the president, but we also want to hold people accountable for actually breaking the law. If you take a look at all of the charges, they're all just basically bogus charges against Donald Trump. But if you have people inside of these agencies actually breaking the law, if you have people inside the FBI or paid sources that are outside the FBI that are going out and who knows what they're doing, inciting people to go into the Capitol or doing whatever they were doing on January 6th, then that needs to be brought to light. That could be considered inciting a riot. Vivek, if you uttered the facts of this IG report last year, you were labeled a conspiracy theorist. It's also notable that the IG report came out literally the day after Christopher Wray resigned. That's totally correct. The day after he resigned. Now, let's see. Let's do one more. Laura Loomer. Love her or hate her. Sometimes she's on there. Today, the media decided to tell us what we have known for the last 4 years. There were at least 26 confidential sources in the crowd on J6 who went into the Capitol, 3 of them whom FBI asked to attend. FBI informants entered the Capitol on J6. It was all a setup to jail Trump supporters. What do you think about that? Was this something to get just that one last revenge on Donald Trump? Did it do what they thought it was going to do? Did it do what they thought it was going to do? It kind of did for the longest time. And now for 4 years, all of these people that were at January 6th, whether they went into the Capitol or not, have been questioned by the Justice Department, FBI, whoever. Many of them have been jailed. Many of them have been jailed for exorbitant amount of times and treated, I mean, it's jail. You're not going to be treated nicely, but solitary confinement, obviously there's some, political retribution going on in jails in terms of how these people are treated. It's rather sickening. And now Donald Trump is coming out saying that if you have been convicted or are being tried for anything doing January 6th and you did not do anything violent, he is going to work to pardon you. He's going to do it on a case-by-case basis. And he says that it's going to be one of the first things that he does after he's sworn in office on January 20th. So guys, those are the 3 top stories I decided to pick out. This is just one of those things where I'm just kind of perusing X. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you kind of found it a little interesting. I hope that you found it at least engaging. And let me know what you think about some of these stories. Put them in the comments below, or if there are other stories that you want me to take a look at, I'd love to, because like I said, this is the first podcast episode. I'm going to try and put out quite a few this week, and then I'm going to try and get it down to about 2 a week. Thinking about putting them out on Sundays and on Wednesdays. Kind of just Sundays will be a recap of the week and kind of what's to come, and then obviously Wednesdays would be the midweek update. So thanks again. This is Sean, Cascade Conservative, coming from the Liberal Collective on the West Coast in Portland, Oregon. Thank you for joining in. I hope you have a great, fantastic day.